So excited about this. But before I accept nominations, I do want to tell the council, thank you so much for the opportunity to serve as your first African-American chairwoman. It has been absolutely my pleasure. It has its challenges, but this has been great. You're a great council. I appreciate you so much, and I look forward to continuing working with you. And with that, I give it to Madam Vice Chair.
Madam Chair, I have certainly enjoyed working with you. You are a terrific leader, and our city is better for your service. If I may, I'd like to nominate Chip Henderson to be our next chair.
Second.
All right. And I have Councilman, it's been motioned and properly seconded, and I have Councilman Ledford.
So, Madam Chair, before we take a vote
Yes.
or close nominations, I just wanted to say thank you for your leadership. You were incredible to serve alongside, and I'm so proud of the job that you have done. It is there's a lot of moving parts to being chair. A lot of moving parts, and you have to think fast, and you have to be on top of every single agenda item. And I believe you have done that with incredible
Oh, thanks.
expertise.
Well,
So
thank you
I want to
so
say
much.
thank you for your service, and I am so happy for you right now.
Thank you so much, Councilman Ledford. Thank you, Council. Y'all are so nice. And just so y'all know out there, they're nice like this all the time, even in the back. So I appreciate it. And also, I want to thank the mayor's office as well. You have been kind and helpful, and I appreciate that as well, even though we do not agree all the time. And I feel like I fuss with Jermaine and Chris Anderson often. I appreciate you all, and I love you. And Ryan, I love you, Ryan. So I appreciate you all so much. So with that, if it's any other comments or questions, okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you, council. This feels a little like deja vu all over again. But here we are, and Councilwoman Dotley, I do want to express my appreciation to you for leading this council over the past year. I do know it can be a difficult job at times, but you did it very well, and I thank you. And Councilwoman Burrs, I'll try not to embarrass you. All right, now that we've got the chair nomination over with, we'll open the floor at this time for vice chair. Oh, Councilwoman Burrs.
I nominate Councilwoman Hill for vice chair.
All right. We have a nomination on the floor for Councilwoman Hill to remain as vice chair. Are there any other nominations to be brought forward? Do I have a motion to close nominations?
So moved.
All right. Well, there you've pulled it on me. I would rather take a. Let's just vote on it. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Congratulations, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you all very much.
And thank you for your service over this past year as well. All right, with all of that taken care of, we will move into the business for the Chattanooga City Council this afternoon. Ordinance is under final reading. If there are no objections from the council, we'll take items A, B, and C since these are second reading.
Item A, an ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone part of a property located at 2815 Cummings Highway from M3 warehouse and wholesale zone and R2 residential zone to C2 convenience commercial zone, subject to certain conditions. Item B, an ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone part of a property located at 6745 Customer Delight Drive from R1 residential zone to RTZ residential townhouse 0 lot line zone, subject to certain conditions. Item C, an ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone part of a property located at 3354 Charger Drive from M1 manufacturing zone to O1 office zone.
What's the pleasure of the council? We have a motion on the floor to approve items A, B, and C with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries. Madam Clerk, moving now to ordinances on first reading. Planning item A, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 4118 Dodds Avenue from R2 residential zone to UGC urban general commercial zone, subject to certain conditions.
Is the applicant for case number 20240038 here? Here. The applicant here, thank you. Is there any opposition present? Councilwoman Dotley, I see the applicant, no opposition.
Yes. If the clerk could read the applicant version of this, and I also have an amendment for it if Karen can come up and read those conditions.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 4118 Dodds Avenue from R2 residential zone to C2 convenience commercial zone.
Okay, I move to approve the applicant version.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the applicant version.
Yes, and I do have an amendment to add the conditions.
Okay.
Karen could read those into the record.
There are two conditions. The first is maximum building height of 25 feet. The second is auto-oriented uses, adult-oriented establishments, kennel, animal daycare facility, animal grooming service, and similar uses for small domestic animals. Hospitals and self-storage facilities are prohibited.
All right, so those are the conditions. I would like that in the form of a motion of an amendment.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to amend and a proper second. Any comments or questions before we vote on the amendment? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. All right, the amendment has carried.
Yes, I would like to move as amended.
All right, there is a motion on the floor to move as amended with a proper second. Questions or comments? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. So moved. Madam Clerk, planning item B, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 1650 Madison Street from URD2 urban residential detached zone to URA3 urban residential attached zone, subject to certain conditions.
Is the applicant for case number 20240044 present? Is that, okay, the applicant's present. Any opposition present? All right. Councilwoman Dotley, I think you still have the floor. What's your pleasure?
All right, I do have an amendment for this one as well, but I want to move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve
All
with a
right.
proper second.
All right, now I do have an amendment. Karen, could you come up and note the change, the zoning change?
Yes, the request has been amended from URA3 to URM3. That's the urban residential multi-unit zone. So the rezoning would be from URD2 to URM3.
All right, and that is in the form of a motion.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to amend with a proper second. Any questions or comments on the amendment? All right, all in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, no.
All right,
All right,
and,
Councilwoman.
all right, motion as amended.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve as amended with a proper second. Questions or comments? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. So moved.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, planning item C, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 2608 Dodson Avenue from R1 residential zone to R2 residential zone.
All right, is the applicant present for 20240030? Is there any opposition present? Councilwoman Coonrod.
Move to withdraw.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to withdraw with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries. Moving now to Public Works, item D, please.
An ordinance closing and abandoning the unopened right-of-way in the 300 block of Tucker Street as detailed on the attached maps.
Councilwoman Hill.
I move to defer this 1 week until the 23rd of April.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to defer until the 23rd of April with a proper second. Questions or comments? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. So moved. Thank you, ma'am. Moving now into resolutions. If there are no objections from the council, Madam Clerk, would you read items 9A and B together?
Item A, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a subrecipient agreement with LifeSpring Community Health to support the goals of the City of Chattanooga's CARE Coalition to address health disparities in Chattanooga by providing mental health services for an amount not to exceed $35,000. Item B, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a subrecipient agreement with Sista RN and Friends to support the goals of the City of Chattanooga's CARE Coalition to address health disparities in Chattanooga by providing mental health online coaching for an amount not to exceed $19,500.
What's the pleasure of the council? All right. We have a motion on the floor with a proper second to approve items A and B. Any comments or questions before we vote? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. So moved. Under Parks and Outdoors and Public Works, if there are no objections, items C and D, please.
Item C, a resolution to enter into a subrecipient agreement with Green Spaces for an amount not to exceed $2,788,741.40. Conservation Legacy's Southeast Conservation Corps for an amount not to exceed $981,000. And University of Tennessee at Chattanooga Interdisciplinary Geospatial Technology Lab for an amount not to exceed $200,685.38 through the Inflation Reduction Act Urban and Community Forestry Grant from the U.S. Department of Agriculture Forest Service Urban and Community Forestry Program to support tree planting, job training, removal of invasive species, watershed protection, urban forestry monitoring, and equitable expansion of the tree canopy in disadvantaged communities designated by the Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool for a total not to exceed $3,970,426.78. Item D, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to execute the consent to assignment of all purchase orders for vendor number 872751, Geo Services LLC, to UES Professional Solutions 19 LLC, relative to the following purchase orders. On-call blanket contracts for Geo-Environmental Consulting and Construction Materials Testing Services, contract number E-21-002-301, purchase agreement number 561823, and continuing environmental consulting services for asbestos, lead, indoor air quality, and other environmental assessments, contract number E-23-014-301, purchase agreement number 100604, and purchase order number 133206 for Glenwood parking improvements, purchase order 133146 for Fire Station number 10 concrete repairs, and purchase order number 104363 for Greenway Farm sidewalks.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve items 9, C, and D. Any comments or questions before we vote? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries. Now, under wastewater, Madam Clerk, items E and F, please.
Item E, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the wastewater department to award contract number W-21-010-201 Highland Park Pump Station Improvements Project to J. Brennan Construction of Dalton, Georgia, for pump station improvements at Highland Park Pump Station in the amount of $3,389,811.84, with a contingency in the amount of $338,931, for a total amount of $3,728,742.84.
All right, you
Item-
have,
Oh.
I'm sorry. You through?
No, go on.
Okay.
Item F, A resolution authorizing the administrator for the wastewater department to approve change order numbers 1 and 2 with SAC Construction LLC of O'Fallon, Illinois for contract number W-18-013-201, South Chickamauga Basins 2-4 Interceptor Rehab to increase by $8,254,431 due to additional CCTV sonar services, delays due to the CSXRR encroachment agreement, and the addition of 2,293 linear feet of CIPP lining for a revised amount of $31,225,617.95, with a contingency in the amount of $480,439, for a total amount of $31,706,056.95.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve items 9E and F with a proper second. Any questions or comments before we vote? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries. Now moving into purchases. Ms. Julia.
Good evening, council. We have 3 purchases recommended for approval this evening. The first is from the wastewater department. This is a 3-month extension of an agreement for mixer gear repair services to allow time for the bidding process. The supplier, SPX Flow Technology, has requested a price increase of 9% due to freight, raw materials, and purchased components. No additional funds will be added. The second is from the Engineering and Water Quality Division of Public Works. This is an increase of $39,400 with Wingfield Scale Company for repair of the damaged Birchwood landfill scales. The scales are essential to the landfill's function and are in immediate need of repair. The third and final purchase from the Department of Parks and Outdoors. This is a one-time purchase in the amount of $67,000 for resurfacing of Brainerd tennis courts used by the Department of Parks and Outdoors. The award will go to Competition Athletic Services, Inc. as the lowest and best bid for the city of Chattanooga.
All right, council, you have heard the request this afternoon. What's your pleasure? All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve tonight's purchases with a proper second. Questions or comments? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. So moved.
We do have one sole source purchase to report as well from the wastewater department. This is a sole source purchase of $28,832 for existing software licenses that monitor the SCADA network. Trihedral Inc. is the sole manufacturer of VT SCADA software. I may have butchered a lot of those. I apologize. And that is our final item from purchases this evening.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving now to committee reports. Councilwoman Coonrod. Councilwoman Knoll.
No report.
Councilwoman Burrs.
No report.
Councilwoman Dotley.
No report.
Councilman Smith.
No report, Mr. Chair.
All right. Councilman Hester.
We did meet today. We'll meet again in 2 weeks.
Very well. Councilwoman Hill. Madam Vice Chair, I'm sorry.
No report.
Thank you.
No report, Mr. Chair.
Give me at least one mistake on my first meeting. Councilman Lefford, I apologize for skipping over you. I do not know how that happened. I'm reading off of the screen. All right, Mr. Attorney, I think you have a report for us tonight.
Yes, sir. I'd like to report to the council that there has been a settlement of 2 cases that are outside my authority without presenting them to this body. One involving Tracy Burton, DBA P&D Construction versus the City of Chattanooga, which has now been resolved at this point in time by payment of $65,000 in that case. And the other one is Marcus Turner versus the City of Chattanooga and one of our police officers. It's case number 23-C-201. And it has been resolved in the amount of $110,000 following mediation in both cases.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
Yes, sir.
Now we come to the time of our agenda where we recognize persons wishing to address the council. Do we have anybody that would like to address the council this afternoon? Very well. I'm going to ask Mr. Attorney if he would to read the rules to address the council.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Hold on one second,
Hold on
please.
just a second, ma'am. I can find my city council stuff here. I had it just a second ago. Hold on just a moment.
Bill, I thought you knew this by heart.
I do in part, but it's always good to look at it again here each time I speak. At the end of each council business meeting, the chair will recognize members of the public who wish to address the council, and here's your rules, ma'am. Each speaker wishing to address the council shall only be recognized at the microphone up front for that purpose. You can't have more than 3 minutes to speak, and you can address the council only upon matters within their legislative and quasi-judicial authority, and not on matters which are not under their authority or regulated by other governmental bodies or agencies. Do not engage in any vulgar or obscene language, nor use the floor to personally attack or personally denigrate others, and address the council as a whole and not make comments directed towards individual council members. And lastly, do not engage in disorderly conduct or disrupting a public meeting, which is prohibited by Tennessee law, and someone commits that offense if the person substantially obstructs or interferes with the meeting by physical action or verbal utterance with the intent to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting or gathering. Having stated the rules of this council, ma'am, please go ahead.
Mr. IT, would you give us 3 minutes on the clock, please? Thank you.
What? Okay. This is my first time being here, and I want you all to know. My name is Valencia Cameron,
Thank you.
and I've been a resident all my life, 57 years. I've worked at different jobs. I've, worked Family Children Services. I've worked at U.S. Pipe, McKee Foods. I've been around. Okay, I was diagnosed with renal failure February of last year. And I have diabetes. I had it since I was 13. And I have a history of seizures. I have lupus. I have I'm on blood thinners because I have a history of blood clots in my legs and my lungs. All the jobs I've had, I've never stayed at a job for less than 5 years. I have asthma, COPD. I had to quit my job in February of last year due to my renal failure. I also have, I think I said asthma and COPD. Now, my sister let me come stay with her, but I can't live with her because she has a dog, and the dog lives in the living area, and she smokes, and her boyfriend smokes, and it's hard for me to relax at night because I'm being woken up by the smoke. And due to this, I'm unable to get a kidney transplant because of my lung disease. So I've been reaching out to different people, not gonna call them by name like you said, and I was trying to get on at the reserve at Mountain Pass. I don't know who can help me with this, but I went to the Chattanooga Housing Authority, me not knowing anything about it, and basically I need a voucher. Can anybody help me get a voucher to move into the reserve at Mountain Pass? Because my health is getting worse. I've been sleeping in my car sometimes because I can't stay at my sister's house. And this has been so rough on me. I don't know what else to do. I mean, I went from working full time to just being out of, it's like nothing. I have nothing but my car. I got the car in February and they diagnosed me 2 weeks later and I had to quit my job. I still got my car. They won't give me no food stamps or nothing, but they said I don't need the car. But if I don't get the car, how am I going to get the dialysis? How am I going to get to the doctor's appointments? And I want to know if anybody can help me with the Chattanooga Housing Authority. I've reached out to them several times. They told me to stop coming over there. I guess I was coming too much. And the people at Reserve are blaming them, and they blaming them. So I need some help.
All right, Ms. Cameron, Chief is, oh, okay. Nicole. You see the lady in the back that's lifting her hand? Will you see her after the meeting, please, ma'am?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Congratulations, Council Chair Henderson and Vice Chair Hill. John Wasilowski, District 9. I'm trying to be more thoughtful about when I decide to approach and to comment, and I'm making what will eventually be a quarterly report on pedestrian and multimodal changes in our city. And I want to start by praising both what's going to be happening on Fraser Avenue and what's currently happening on Central Avenue. Restriping efforts are things that we can do quickly and cheaply to make our city safer for cyclists and pedestrians. And if we wait, like we did with Holtzclaw, for resurfacing efforts, it'll take upwards of 50 to 60 years to do that. So these quick plans and quick builds that we're doing are a model that we should try to extend. But I also want to bring up something. In the middle of November, a small group of citizens formed a local chapter of an organization called Strong Towns. 7 of them showed up at a tavern in the North Shore. I was one of those 7, though I did not start the group. And since November, 2 of those 7 people have been hit by cars as a pedestrian and as a cyclist. This group, I would say, stands as a canary in the coal mine for the rest of the city because we have nothing that separates us from other citizens except for the fact that we are willing to walk and ride even when it's a little bit inconvenient and even though it's a little bit unsafe. And so what happens to our group is indicative of what happens to Chattanooga as a whole. Last year, we know we had a bad year, but this year is not looking much better. There have been 30 pedestrian incidents so far this year, and we know that that number itself is underreported because that 30 comes from Chattadata, and there are actual news reports of incidents that are not showing up on Chattadata. So we know that the 30 that have been hit, though we've had less fatalities, is a troubling fact and something that we need to take ownership. Other cities, like the city of Milwaukee, have put together traffic crash task force, so to say. They look at almost like a heat map of the city. They recognize areas that are trouble areas, crashes that are not just happen car versus pedestrian, but car versus car versus object. And they're finding cheap and quick solutions to address those problem areas. We could do something very similar, not asking for more budget, but to reallocate it and take a different mindset. And the mindset shift would be this. If you ask Public Works to make a change, they're looking at the liability of that change. But right now, we need to ask who is liable for the status quo, because the status quo is dangerous, people are getting hit, and people are dying. Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, you haven't changed the nameplates. You know, I would notice that. Still says Rakita.
Noted.
Thank you. Monty Bell, the homeless journalist, gray hair at Fox, a man with the $1 trillion boys. Before any of you came here, Monty Bell had an office behind this petition. Before any of you came here. And my little office was there with a man named John Franklin. We had one goal and one goal in mind: health, education, and welfare. That's what he groomed me on. Johnny, should it be education and health? No. Health, education, and the welfare of the citizens. That was my goal as a youth. Still is as a senior. Health, education, and the welfare of your citizens. Not the city, your citizens. Not this foundation, but the citizens. Health, education, and the welfare of your citizens, particularly your locals. The last time I was here, there was a dispute whether or not Monty Bell's open records request, it says urgent, non-negotiable. That's what they got at the comptroller's office. You all got a copy. They got in red ink, urgent, and it's non-negotiable. It's the open records request requirements for City of Chattanooga, its city attorney, and Hamilton County, its county attorney. We got a A-OK from the comptroller's office. Is Monty Bell's open records request sufficiently clear? The immediate removal from office, it's already been plagiarized by the county attorney. It's sufficiently clear. $211 billion, $34 million for your fraud. No one has ever come into a courtroom with Monty Bell. Not a single soul. From your General Sessions Court all the way up to your United States Supreme Court. I've defeated each and every one of you. What you tried to get Monty Bell with in June, with your new police chief, was something that occurred under Andy Burke. You bring me in Elma Reed Williams' court, but you're trying me in the court of Jeffrey Hollingsworth. That's Kyle Hendricks. That's Andy Burke. It's fraud on the entire 11th Judicial District Court. Next week, we're going to see if we can't get the police chief, the sheriff, and their attorneys to come and explain
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Your time is expired.
For fraud on the entire 11th Judicial District Court. Thank you.
Okay, good evening. My name is Aiden Kluver, and I'm a social work student here at UTC. I come here today to also address pedestrian safety. So I'm originally from Nashville, but I've called Chattanooga my home for about 3 years. And since my time here, I have been out in the community quite a bit and have developed a concern for pedestrian safety, specifically in areas on the east side of Chattanooga. I am sure that there are other areas where pedestrian safety is an issue in Chattanooga, but these are specific places where I have seen firsthand some dangerous activity and compromised safety for pedestrians. It is no surprise that lower income areas in Chattanooga have some of the worst sidewalks and roads, yet residents in these places rely on public transport, sidewalks, and walkable streets the most. Cars fly through school zones and crosswalks, which also compromises the safety of the pedestrians. My recommendations for safety for pedestrians in Chattanooga are more crosswalks with crossing lights specifically, more streetlights on poorly lit streets, regular street cleanup in high traffic areas, and more surveillance and ticketing of violations in school zones and crosswalks. I would also like to advocate for better sidewalks, specifically in lower income areas where many people rely on walking to access parks, work, grocery stores, schools, and other resources. However, in the long run, more accessible public transport would be the most ideal solution to this issue, in my opinion. If I'm not mistaken, $4 million in grants were given to Chattanooga in March from the U.S. Department of Transportation. I could be wrong on that, but these funds are to be used towards improving pedestrian safety and connecting the community. These grants provide a way to start the process of making Chattanooga more accessible, connected, and safe, and I hope that this opportunity is not wasted. As representatives of the community and the amazing people that reside in Chattanooga, I encourage everyone involved in this plan to be good stewards of these funds. There are so many accomplishments that the city of Chattanooga has made that can and should be celebrated, such as the major improvement in air quality, the amount of green spaces and parks all across the city, and so many more. I hope that allocation and use of these funds for improving pedestrian safety is one of the things that we can add to that list. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hey, my name's Michelle Bilbrey. I represent a bunch of farmers from Bledsoe County. Is there any way I can pass one of these letters out to you guys? If you guys may have them and some of them may not. We were cut off from the biosolids this year like we were 10 years ago. And it was a deal between Tim Kelly and our mayor. It was also a deal previously between y'all's mayor and our mayor. We're here today asking to not discriminate against us. Every county around us gets the biosolids but us. And we got a letter stating that it was political. So the farmers in Bledsoe County have took a hit because it's political. And that really stings. I've got a reporter here with me today. I will be walking out to do a thing with her. And when I do, I would like to talk about the partnership that Chattanooga and the farmers has with the biosolids and the good use for biosolids. Not that we were discriminated against for a political favor for two mayors.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I spoke last year about this, just about a year ago, in support of the passage of the Climate Action Plan.
I didn't catch your name.
Oh, I'm sorry, Pat Smith. I'm chairperson of the Deconstruction Advisory Board for Chattanooga and Hamilton County.
Thank you.
And I said a year ago that we were here not just to support the city, but to be an active team leader in helping Chattanooga reach their zero waste goals. Now, deconstruction, if you remember, the definition is the systematic and careful disassembly of a building in order to recover the materials for reuse, giving them and maximizing their economic, environmental, educational, and cultural value back to the community. So I'm here today to update you on our progress. Last September at our board meeting, we set out specific goals for a 16-year timeline for the Deconstruction Advisory Board. February, I attended the 3-day National Deconstruction and Reuse Conference. Fortunately, it was in Savannah, so I didn't have far to go. And I learned from others around the country who have had successful deconstruction programs and also the obstacles and advancements that the industry has made. Now, on March 28th, 29th, just a couple weeks ago, a 2-day Introduction to Deconstruction workshop was held right here in Chattanooga. And one of the most respected and knowledgeable deconstruction consultants in the country, David Bennick from Reuse Consulting out of Washington, came to Chattanooga to teach that workshop. I limited the capacity to 40 people, and we had a contractor from Nashville even come to learn from David. I'm getting running time, so those in attending and learning about the advantages of deconstruction over demolition were large construction companies, small businesses, independent contractors, design, drafting companies, restoration, preservation, home inspection, architects. The Chattanooga Woodworking Academy was there, along with student member of the Association of General Contractors and UTC. Non-for-profits were there, like Preserve Chattanooga and Habitat for Humanity. The Department of Sustainability was there, and also 3 members from the Chattanooga Housing Authority. Sierra Club and local artists and interested community members added to the diversity of that class. Now, last week, the Deconstruction Advisory Board had what I call our first very successful success story, and I'm going to leave a photo with you. As you know, the Youth Family Development Building is scheduled for demolition, but 3 really nice interior doors and about 10 feet of cabinetry and countertops were deconstructed and saved. We were able to coordinate a pickup for those items for donation to the Habitat for Humanity Restore. This is what deconstruction is all about, saving items that others no longer need and making them available to the community.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you so
Smith.
much.
Good evening, Council. Josh Branham, Governmental Affairs Director for Greater Chattanooga Realtors. Earlier, I passed out the March housing market statistics for you all. Just kind of a snapshot of what's going on in the city of Chattanooga. If you look on our website, we have a very pretty infographic that, I mean, it's pretty because I made it, but we actually, the footprint of our association is all 5 counties. It's Hamilton County, Sequatchie County, and then Georgia, it's Dade County, Walker County, and Catoosa County. But this data that you have is for just the city of Chattanooga, so I wanted to provide you all with that, but also wanted to give some information to you all. We were able to secure some additional grant funding from the National Association of Realtors. Chairman Henderson and Councilman Ledford have each in their areas received grant funding from the National Association of Realtors for particular projects, beautiful projects, very excited about them, to partner with you all. But this additional funding is for $3,000. It's for a small grant. It's a small placemaking grant project. My information's on there, but just the quick thumbnail of it is that if there's a piece of property that is city-owned, if there is a small project not exceeding well, the grant is for $3,000, but we could also partner. But if there is a area of town that you want to try a temporary-ish placemaking measure, like if there's a parklet, or maybe, and this is all voted on by committee, but just for example, maybe some artwork on newly redesigned Fraser Avenue. Just throwing that out there. But if there's a similar project that you all would like to try out, please reach out to me. This is something, the only other stipulation is that it has to be completed within this year. So by December, it needs to be completely completed. That's a little redundant. But again, my contact information is there, and we would love to give you all money that doesn't belong to us. So we'd love to be a partner with you all. So thank you all again and have a great evening. Okay.
Thank you. Council, I am not seeing anyone else that would like to address the council. What's your pleasure? We're adjourned.